The market was loud and chaotic, filled with strange alien sounds and flashing lights. The air smelled of smoke, burnt food, and fear. Merchants shouted. Buyers argued, and in the center, a small cage stood on a raised platform, trembling inside. It was Lyra, a thin alien woman with silver-blue skin and tired, frightened eyes. Beside her, a small girl clutched her leg, her wide eyes reflecting the chaos. This was not a place for mercy. It was a place where lives were bought and sold for credits. John Carter, a human, stood at the edge of the market, observing. His assignment was clear: sell Lyra and her daughter, Mina, to the highest bidder. He had done jobs like this before. But something about them felt different. Lyra's eyes held a quiet strength and sorrow, and Mina's innocent curiosity tugged at a part of him he rarely let show. The auctioneer, a tall reptilian alien with sharp teeth, raised his claw, signaling the start of the bidding. First up, the auctioneer hissed, Widow Lyra and her daughter Mina, the finest companions for anyone willing to pay. Step forward and make your offer. The crowd surged forward, voices overlapping. 50 credits, 60, 70. The numbers rose quickly, but not in a fair or safe way. Some buyers were known for cruelty, and John noticed several staring at Lyra with something darker than curiosity. He clenched his fists, feeling a mixture of anger and unease. This was not just business. This was a test of morality. Lyra held Mina close, whispering softly in a language the crowd could not understand. She tried to calm the girl, but her own voice shook. A tear ran down her cheek, and John felt a sharp pang in his chest. He wanted to turn away, to leave and ignore the rules, but he could not. The market had its laws, but so did his conscience. 80 credits, shouted a muscular alien with 4 arms. The crowd cheered, and the auctioneer banged his claw on the podium. Sold to the highest bidder. But John hesitated. He stepped forward, placing himself between Lyra, Mina, and the buyer. The crowd murmured, confused. What is this human doing? Does he not know the rules? John looked into Lyra's eyes, seeing fear, exhaustion, and a faint hope. He made a choice, a dangerous one. Stop, he said firmly. I will take them. The auctioneer hissed, and the crowd gasped. Such defiance was rare and risky. The buyer's face twisted in anger, claws clenching. You dare? This human will pay for his insolence. John ignored him, focusing on Lyra and Mina. You are safe now. For the moment, he whispered, offering a small nod. Lyra's eyes widened in disbelief. She had expected only pain, cruelty, and separation, not protection. The auctioneer scowled. Do you know what you are doing, human? These aliens are property. John's jaw tightened. They are more than property, he replied, voice steady. They are life. The words echoed strangely in the crowded market, drawing curious and suspicious looks. Mina peeked from behind her mother, her small hands trembling. Will he keep us safe? She asked softly. Her voice carried a mix of hope and fear. John knelt slightly, meeting her gaze. I promise I will do everything I can, he said, giving her a small reassuring smile. The buyer approached, claws raised, ready to strike. Hand them over, or face the consequences. John stood his ground, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed to flee, but he could not leave them. He grabbed Lyra's arm gently, motioning for her to follow. She hesitated, looking into his eyes, and something in that glance told her that he meant it, that he was not like the others. Chaos erupted as John led them away. Pushing through the crowd, the market guards shouted and tried to block them, but he moved quickly. Using the narrow alleys and shadows to hide, Mina clung tightly to his hand, trusting him in a way no child should have to. Lyra followed closely, her fear battling a growing sense of relief. As they disappeared into the twisting streets, the sounds of the market faded behind them, but John knew this was only the beginning. The auction was over, but the danger was far from gone. Alien buyers, guards, and powerful figures would come after them, and yet, he felt a spark of something rare, something worth the risk. Hope. For the first time in a long while, Lyra dared to breathe, just a little, her daughter's small hand held tightly in John's. She whispered a quiet, almost unnoticeable, "Thank you." But John heard it clearly, and in that moment, he knew he could not turn back. The world was cruel, and the market was full of greed. But he would stand against it, for them. The streets were dark, filled with shadows and secrets, and as they vanished into the night, John Carter felt the weight of what he had chosen. He had broken the rules, defied authority, and risked his own life. Yet for Lyra and Mina, it was the only choice he could make, and the story was just beginning. The night was quiet, but the streets were not safe. Shadows moved strangely along the walls, and distant footsteps echoed. John Carter led Lyra and Mina through narrow alleys. Careful not to make a sound, every step could be watched. Every shadow could hide danger. Mina clung tightly to her mother's arm, her small face pale and anxious. "Will they find us?" she whispered, barely audible. Lyra's hand trembled as she held her daughter. I don't know," she admitted. "But we must stay strong." John glanced back, scanning the dark streets, his eyes sharp and alert. "We need to find shelter, someplace hidden," he said. "A place where no one can track us easily." Lyra nodded, though fear still gripped her chest. She had never imagined mercy, only survival. Only now did she realize that this human, he might be different, someone who could truly protect them. They reached a small abandoned warehouse, its walls cracked and doors barely hanging on rusty hinges. Inside it was dark, dusty, and cold, but it was safe for now, and that was enough. John gestured for them to sit, and he placed some food and water he had brought in front of them. Mina's eyes widened at the sight. She had not eaten a warm meal in days. You brought us food?" she asked softly, her voice filled with disbelief. John nodded. "Yes, eat quickly, then rest." He could see the hunger and exhaustion in her eyes, and it cut him deeper than any weapon ever could. Lyra sat beside her daughter, watching her eat. Her mind raced with thoughts of her lost husband, the cruel market, and the dangerous buyers who had wanted to claim her as property. She had felt powerless for so long, and now she felt something unfamiliar: hope. A small spark that maybe, just maybe, they could survive. John sat a short distance away, keeping watch, but he could not help observing them, how fragile they seemed, yet how strong, even in fear. Lyra's eyes held dignity, and Mina's small courage shone in the way she tried to comfort her mother. John thought about the choice he had made, defying orders, risking punishment. It had not been easy, but he knew that some lives were worth more than rules or credits. Suddenly, Mina looked at him, her small face curious. Why are you helping us?" she asked, her innocence touched him deeply. John knelt down to meet her gaze. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. "No one deserves to be treated like they are less than life itself." Mina's eyes shone a little, as if she understood, or maybe she just wanted to believe. Lyra watched silently, her heart stirring with emotions she had thought long buried. As the night grew deeper, John started speaking softly, telling them stories of distant planets, strange creatures, and humans who had helped others, even when it was dangerous. Mina listened intently, her small hands clutching her mother, for a moment forgetting the horrors they had faced. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a strange comfort from this human's words and presence. She had been alone, terrified and hopeless, but now for the first time she felt a sense of safety, fragile and fleeting, but real. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the broken windows. John's senses were on high alert. Every sound could mean trouble. He knew they could not stay here forever, but tonight they could rest, regroup, and plan. Lyra finally spoke, her voice quiet, almost a whisper. "I don't know why you chose us," she said. "We are nothing to you, just two weak aliens." John shook his head. "No one is nothing," he said, voice firm. "Everyone has value, and I will make sure no one takes that from you." Mina yawned, her exhaustion catching up. John guided them to some blankets he had found. making a small corner for them to sleep. "Try to rest," he said. "Tomorrow will be hard, but we'll face it together." Lyra nodded, hugging her daughter tightly, both of them slowly letting sleep take over. The first night of peace in a long time, even if brief. John sat alone for a while, thinking about the danger ahead, alien buyers, guards, and powerful figures from the market would not forget. He needed a plan, and fast, but he also knew that compassion, courage, and quick thinking could give them a chance at life, a chance at freedom. He looked at Lyra and Mina sleeping, and his resolve strengthened. He had chosen to protect them, and he would not fail. Outside, the shadows moved, whispering of danger and pursuit. But inside, a fragile light burned, the light of hope, trust, and a new bond forming between a human and the two aliens. It was a beginning, small and uncertain, but it was something worth fighting for. The night passed slowly, filled with tension. Yet within it, the first sparks of a story that could change everything had begun. And as the first rays of light touched the broken windows, John knew this was not the end of fear or danger. It was only the start of a journey where choices, courage, and compassion would define their fate. The price of kindness was high, but he was ready to pay it, for Lyra, for Mina, and for something even larger, the hope that one human could make a difference in a cruel universe. The first light of dawn barely touched the city, but the market's chaos had left shadows everywhere. John Carter led Lyra and Mina through twisting alleys, every step careful, every movement cautious. The buyers from the auction would not forget their human protector, and rumors of a human defying the market spread fast. Some were already hunting for them, eyes sharp and claws ready. Lyra's legs moved quickly, but her mind was heavy with fear. She had seen countless alien buyers take lives for pleasure or profit. Her heart pounded, and Mina stumbled occasionally, whimpering softly. John stayed close, his hand firm on Lyra's shoulder. "Keep moving, don't stop," he whispered. "We can't be caught now." Mina looked up at him, small eyes wide with trust. "Will they find us?" she asked, her voice trembling. John shook his head slightly. "Not if we stay smart," he replied. But even he felt the tension pressing against his chest. They reached a narrow street, almost blocked by abandoned carts and broken stalls, perfect for hiding. John motioned for them to crouch behind a stack of crates. He peered through the gaps, spotting 2 market guards scanning the area, their weapons glinting in the morning light. "We need to distract them," he muttered. "I have an idea." Lyra's hands shook as she followed his instructions, moving quietly while John prepared a small device from his bag. It emitted a low-frequency sound, unfamiliar and irritating, but harmless. The guards froze, their attention drawn to the noise, giving John a narrow window to move. "Quick, this way," he whispered, leading them through a hidden passage. The walls were damp, the smell of mold and decay strong. Mina clung to her mother, both of them silent now, fear turning into desperate determination. The passage opened to the rooftops, and John climbed carefully, helping Lyra and Mina after him. From above, the city looked endless, dark roofs stretching in every direction. But it also offered freedom, a path unseen by most below. As they moved across the rooftops, John could hear distant shouts, the frustrated voices of those who were already searching. He led them to a small landing, where a rope and grappling hook could take them further to safety. "Hold on tight," he instructed, securing the rope to a sturdy beam. One by one, they descended, careful not to slip. The rope creaked under their weight, but it held. Mina's small hands gripped tightly, and she followed her mother's lead. Lyra's face pale, but her eyes were determined. Once on the ground, John paused, scanning the area. The streets were empty for now, but the market's reach was far. He needed a plan to keep them moving. "Somewhere safe, somewhere hidden. We can't stop yet," he said softly. "We have to keep going until we find a place they won't look for." Lyra nodded, breathing heavily. "I never thought someone would risk themselves for us." she admitted, her voice breaking slightly. I didn't either, John replied. But some things are worth more than rules or credits. They entered an abandoned building. Its windows broken and doors hanging loosely. Inside, it smelled of dust and rust, but it was safer than the open streets. John set up a small barricade with old furniture, giving them a temporary hiding spot. Mina crawled into a corner, hugging a torn blanket, exhausted but finally feeling a sense of safety. Lyra sat beside her, tears welling in her eyes. We made it. For now, she whispered. Thanks to you, John gave a small nod. But his eyes never stopped moving. Alert to every sound, every shadow. Suddenly, the distant sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the building. John froze, signaling Lyra and Mina to stay quiet. The footsteps grew louder, careful but deliberate. Someone was inside, searching. He grabbed a small stun device, ready to defend them. The figure appeared in the doorway, a tall alien guard, its eyes scanning. John waited for the right moment, then pressed a button, sending a blinding flash of light and a sharp buzz. The guard yelped and fell back, disoriented, giving John Lyra and Mina a chance to slip away into another corridor. They ran silently, hearts pounding, each corner a new risk. But the adrenaline pushed them forward, stronger than fear. They found a hidden exit at the back of the building, leading to a small alley covered by overgrown vines. For the first time they paused, catching their breath. Mina's small face pressed into her mother's shoulder, exhausted and trembling. Will they come after us again? She asked softly. John looked around, nodding slowly. Yes, but we'll stay ahead, he said. We have to be smart, fast, and careful. Lyra's eyes met his, gratitude and awe mixed with lingering fear. You saved us, she said. I don't know how to thank you. John shook his head. No thanks needed, he replied. Just stay with me, follow my lead, and we survive, Mina yawned, her small body leaning against John. Trusting him completely, John felt the weight of their trust and the responsibility pressing down on him. But also a strange warmth, a spark of hope in a cruel universe. The city lay silent now, but danger lingered, waiting for any mistake. John knew this escape was only temporary, but it proved something important. Courage, quick thinking, and compassion could give even the weakest a chance to survive. And for Lyra and Mina, tonight had shown that not all humans were cruel, that some could risk everything to protect life. Their journey was far from over, but for the first time in weeks, maybe months, they had a chance. And as the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the city, John Carter led them onward, away from the auction, away from the hunters, and toward a future uncertain, but filled with hope, determination, and the quiet promise of protection. Asterisk. The city's outskirts were quiet, almost eerily so. John Carter led Lyra and Mina along a hidden path, away from the chaos of the market and the hunters who still searched for them. The buildings here were older, abandoned, but safer, less chance of being spotted. Mina clutched her mother's hand, her small feet shuffling quickly to keep up. Are we far from the market? She asked, voice small and nervous. John nodded. A few more streets, then we'll be hidden, he said, keeping his eyes sharp, scanning every alley, every shadow. Lyra's mind raced with possibilities. She had never known safety, only fear, and the cruel hands of buyers and guards. Yet now, with John guiding them, a strange sense of hope filled her chest. Could this human truly be different? Could he really protect them, as he promised? She dared to believe it, just a little. They reached an old warehouse, its doors warped and cracked, but its walls sturdy. This will do for now, John said, pushing the door open slowly, peering. Inside, he saw empty crates and dust-covered floors, perfect for hiding temporarily. Lyra and Mina stepped inside, looking around cautiously. The place smelled of old wood and rust, but it was shelter, and that was enough. John set down the small bag of supplies he had carried. We need food, water, and a plan, he said quietly. We can't stay here long, but it's a start. Lyra nodded, helping Mina settle on a pile of blankets he had found. Mina's eyes were wide with exhaustion, but also curiosity. She peeked at John. "Will we be safe here?" she asked softly. John knelt down, meeting her gaze. "For now," he said. "But we must be careful." He looked at Lyra, noticing the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes never stopped scanning. He knew she was still afraid, even with a human protector. As the sun climbed higher, casting light through broken windows, John began inspecting the warehouse, checking doors, windows, and potential hiding spots. Lyra followed him cautiously, Mina trailing behind. Their eyes took in every shadow, every corner, preparing for threats that might come at any moment. Finally, John nodded, satisfied. "We have a safe spot for now," he said, "but we need to rest and prepare." Lyra sat down, hugging Mina close, both of them finally letting their bodies relax a little. The fear of being hunted still lingered, but a thin thread of comfort began to form. She looked at John, who was organizing supplies, his movements calm but alert. You do all this for us?" she asked quietly, voice filled with wonder and disbelief. John paused, looking at her. "Yes," he said simply. "Everyone deserves a chance, and I will make sure no one takes yours." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, gratitude, and relief, mixing together. She had never known kindness like this before. The rest of the day passed quietly, with John keeping watch while Lyra and Mina rested. He prepared a small corner with blankets and some clean water, offering them a chance to eat and regain strength. Mina hesitated at first, unsure of trust, but eventually took a sip and nibbled at some food. Her small smile touched John's heart. He had seen so much cruelty in this galaxy, yet here he could offer something simple, something human: protection, care, and hope. As evening approached, the warehouse grew darker, shadows stretching across the walls. John decided it was time to teach them basic safety. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice low but firm. "If anyone comes near, stay hidden, stay quiet, and trust me." Lyra nodded, absorbing every word. Mina clung to her mother, eyes wide, but listening. John showed them simple signals and safe spots inside the warehouse. Every corner, every shadow had a purpose now, a plan for survival. Night fell slowly, wrapping the warehouse in darkness, but inside, a small light burned. John had set a makeshift lamp, giving them warmth and a sense of comfort. Lyra finally allowed herself to relax fully, hugging Mina close. "I never thought I would feel safe again," she whispered. "But here, with you, maybe we can survive." John nodded, feeling the weight of their trust, the responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Suddenly, a faint noise echoed outside, rustling leaves and distant footsteps. John immediately went to the window, peering into the darkness, his hand gripping a small weapon he kept ready. "Stay back," he whispered, signaling Lyra and Mina to move away from the doors and windows. The sound passed quickly, a false alarm, perhaps an animal, or perhaps someone checking the area. John exhaled slowly, tension easing just a little. Lyra watched him, awe and gratitude in her eyes. "You risk so much for us," she said softly. John turned, smiling faintly. "Because someone has to," he said. "Because life is worth protecting, and no one should live in fear alone." Mina yawned, finally curling up into her mother's arms, exhausted, but safe for now. John stayed awake a while longer, keeping watch, knowing this was only the beginning. But for the first time in a long time, Lyra and Mina had a human shelter, a place to rest, and the hope of a future where they were not just prey, but protected. Outside, the city slept, unaware of the small group hidden in the warehouse. Inside, hope flickered like a tiny flame. Fragile but alive, John's presence, steady and strong, became their shield, their comfort, and the first step toward a life free from fear. The night was dark and heavy, the city's streets empty, yet danger lingered in every shadow. John Carter kept watch by the warehouse door, eyes sharp, senses alert. Lyra and Mina rested behind him, trying to sleep but aware of the tension that hung in the air. The market hunters would not give up so easily, especially after a human had dared to defy them. Hours passed slowly, each sound amplified in the quiet. The creak of a distant door, the rustle of paper in the wind. Every tiny noise made Lyra's heart race. Mina clung to her mother, trembling, her small hands gripping tightly. "Are they coming for us?" she whispered, eyes wide. John shook his head slightly. "Maybe," he said. "But we are ready." He checked the barricade again, making sure the weak points were reinforced. "If they try, we won't go down easily." Suddenly, a shadow moved across the alley, barely visible through the broken window. John's hand went to his weapon, ready. Lyra and Mina froze, their breaths caught in their throats. The figure paused, then moved closer, careful and silent. This was no animal, it was a hunter, sent to retrieve what had been sold. John signaled Lyra and Mina to stay low. He moved quietly to the side, keeping the shadow in sight. The hunter came closer, tall and strong, with sharp eyes and a cruel smile. It sniffed the air. Sensing something was wrong, John waited until the hunter's back was turned, then pressed a small button on a device he had prepared. A high-pitched sound echoed through the street, strange and piercing. The hunter yelped, covering its ears, stumbling back, giving John a chance to act. He opened the warehouse door quietly and slipped outside. Lyra and Mina followed, hiding behind him, careful not to make a sound. John's mind raced. He needed an escape route, somewhere the hunters would not expect. He spotted an old sewer grate, half covered with dirt and debris. Pointing to it, "This way now," he whispered, urgency sharp in his voice. They ran, hearts pounding, feet moving as fast as fear could push them. The hunter recovered quickly. Realizing the human and aliens were escaping, it roared, calling for backup. But John was already ahead. Leading Lyra and Mina to the grate, he lifted it, revealing the dark tunnel below. "Go, quickly," he urged, pushing them gently. They slipped inside, the metal grate clanging softly behind them as John closed it just enough to hide their escape. The tunnel smelled damp and musty, but it was safe. For now Lyra and Mina stumbled in the darkness. The tunnel cold and wet, but their relief was palpable. "We're safe." "For now," Lyra whispered, clutching Mina close. John's voice echoed softly behind them. "Keep moving, stay close and don't make a sound." The tunnel twisted and turned, but John knew it well. A hidden path he had used before for emergencies. He guided them silently, listening for any sign of pursuit. Outside, the hunters searched the streets, frustration clear in their movements. They had never expected the human to outsmart them, and that anger made them careless. John used this to his advantage, slipping through smaller passages, avoiding the main roads. His knowledge of the city a shield. Lyra began to feel a strange sense of trust, watching him move with confidence, realizing he truly cared about their safety. Hours passed as they navigated the tunnels, finally reaching a small exit that led to an abandoned park. Overgrown plants covered the area, hiding them from the hunter's view. Mina laughed softly, relief finally breaking through her fear. Lyra smiled too, exhausted but grateful. They could rest here for a while. But John knew the hunters were clever and would not stop searching. "We have to keep moving soon," he reminded them. "But this will give us a chance to eat and rest a little." He pulled out the small supplies he had saved, giving Lyra and Mina water and some food. Their hands shook as they ate, but they were safe for now. John's eyes scanned the surroundings constantly, still alert to any threat. "You've been brave," he said softly, looking at Lyra, "and you must stay brave a little longer." Lyra nodded, the fear in her eyes replaced with determination. "I will," she said, "for Mina and me." The night grew colder, shadows lengthening in the park, but inside, a small warmth remained. John sat with them, keeping watch, ready for any danger, ready to protect them. He had made a promise, and no hunter, no matter how ruthless, would break it. The city slept, unaware that 3 beings had escaped its cruelty, hidden for now, but alive. For Lyra and Mina, this night proved something vital. Humans could be heroes, and even in the darkest places, courage and care could shine. The hunters would return. But the human was clever, strong, and willing to risk everything, and for the first time, Lyra and Mina felt more than hope. They felt trust, safety, and the beginnings of a life where they might truly survive. Dawn broke slowly over the city. Outskirts, painting the sky with pale orange and pink, John Carter led Lyra and Mina through the hidden paths. Careful to avoid main roads, his mind was sharp, aware that the hunters would not give up easily. Every shadow, every noise, could mean danger. They needed a plan. Not just for today, but for the days ahead. Lyra's thoughts were heavy, fear and doubt mixing with gratitude. She had never imagined a human could care so much. Could they really escape the hunters, or was this just a temporary relief? Mina held her hand tightly, her small face serious despite her young age. Will they come for us again? She asked, voice trembling. John nodded. Yes, he said, but we will be ready. He glanced around, spotting an abandoned building. In the distance, we can rest there, but first, we must be smart. The building was an old trading post, broken windows and crumbling walls, but it was hidden and quiet, perfect for a temporary shelter. John led them inside, checking every corner, making sure there were no traps or surprises. Lyra and Mina followed, eyes wide as they explored. Dust covered the floors, but for now, safety was all that mattered. As they settled, a sound came from the street outside. Distant voices, murmurs, too low to understand clearly. John's expression hardened. Hunters, he whispered, signaling Lyra and Mina to stay down. They crouched behind old crates, holding their breaths. The voices grew louder, cautious steps approaching. The human had prepared for this, slipping quietly to the doorway, listening, calculating. A small group of hunters appeared, scanning the area, one of them holding a device that could detect heat signatures. John noticed immediately. He whispered to Lyra and Mina, "Stay absolutely still, trust me." The hunters moved closer, almost directly to their hiding spot. But John had anticipated this. He flicked a switch on a device he had hidden. A sudden smoke filled the street outside, confusing the hunters. Their voices rose in panic. Where did they go? One shouted. The human had bought them precious time after the hunters scattered temporarily. John returned to Lyra and Mina, relief in his eyes. "That was close," he said softly. "Too close." Lyra hugged Mina tightly, whispering, "We can't go back." "Ever," John nodded. "We won't," he promised. "But we may need help, and not all help is safe." He explained carefully. "There's someone I know. A trader who deals in information and supplies. She's dangerous, yes, but she can help us escape the hunters completely. We need her contact, and in return, we will owe her a favor, something we must be willing to pay." Lyra frowned, uncertainty in her eyes. "Can we trust her?" she asked. John shook his head. "Not completely, but she's our best chance. Sometimes we must take risks to survive." As they prepared to leave the building, John led them through secret passages, avoiding main roads. Every step was cautious. Every sound was a warning. Lyra felt her heart pounding. This journey was more dangerous than anything she had imagined. Mina clung to her side. Looking to her mother for reassurance, Lyra whispered, "We have him." "That's something." Mina smiled faintly, trusting in the human who had already saved them twice. Finally, they reached the edge of the city. The trader's building in sight, tall and imposing, its walls covered in symbols unfamiliar to Lyra. John took a deep breath. "Here we go," he said. "Stay close and stay quiet." They entered the building, and the trader greeted them immediately, sharp eyes taking in every detail. "I've been expecting someone brave or desperate," she said, a smirk on her lips. John met her gaze steadily. "I need your help," he said, "and I am willing to pay the price." The trader studied them. Lyra and Mina hidden slightly behind John, her eyes flicking between the humans and aliens. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, but know this," she said. "Nothing is free, and you will owe me. Everything has a cost. Are you ready to pay it?" John looked at Lyra and Mina, then back at the traitor. "Yes," he said firmly. "Anything to keep them safe." Lyra felt a strange mix of fear and hope. This human was willing to risk anything, even bargains with dangerous strangers. She realized how far he had come for them, and how much they depended on him. The traitor's smirk widened, sensing their unease. "Good," she said. "Then let's make a plan. One that may just save your lives, or cost you more than you imagine." The three of them huddled together, John explaining their situation, the traitor giving instructions, the tension in the room thick. Lyra and Mina listened silently, understanding that survival was not just about hiding, but about choices, alliances, and sometimes dangerous bargains. Outside, the city slept, unaware that another game of life and death was being planned in the shadows. Inside, hope flickered again, fragile but real. For the first time, Lyra realized that survival was not just about escaping hunters, but about trusting a human who was willing to risk everything, even if it meant entering a dangerous bargain. She felt a strange courage growing inside her, ready to face whatever came next, because with John, and now the traitor, maybe, just maybe, they had a chance to survive and find freedom. The first light of dawn broke over the horizon, soft and golden, yet the city still felt heavy with the memories of the night. John Carter led Lyra and Mina through narrow alleyways, each step careful, deliberate. Every shadow a reminder of the hunters who still searched for them. Their hearts were racing, but the promise of freedom pushed them forward. The traitor's plan had been risky, but it offered a chance, a slim one, to escape the hunters completely. Lyra followed John closely, Mina clinging to her side, her small hands trembling, but her eyes now held determination. "We're almost there," John whispered, glancing back to ensure no one followed. The streets were quieter now, the morning fog giving them cover. They reached a hidden courtyard, overgrown with weeds and cracked stone. The traitor had left supplies and instructions here. "This is your path to freedom," John said, crouching low. "Once we go beyond this gate, hunters cannot follow easily, but we must move fast. The city awakens, and danger returns with it." Lyra nodded, gripping Mina tightly, ready for the final stretch. John pushed the rusted gate open slowly, listening for any sound. The metal creaked softly, echoing in the quiet morning. Beyond the gate lay an old transport ship, hidden beneath a tarpaulin climbing vines, its engine silent, but operational, ready for a quick escape. Lyra's eyes widened. "Is that really going to take us away?" she asked, hope in her voice. John smiled faintly. "Yes, but we must hurry." As they approached, a noise behind them made them freeze. The hunters had tracked them this far, their voices angry, shouting commands. "They can't escape." One yelled, footsteps pounding the cobblestones. John moved quickly, pulling Lyra and Mina behind the ship. He handed them small weapons he had prepared, enough to scare off pursuers if needed. "Do not be afraid," he whispered. "I won't let them touch you." The hunters arrived just as John activated the ship's engines, the low hum vibrating under their feet. The hunters' faces twisted with rage as the ship's ramp lowered. Ready for boarding, John grabbed Lyra and Mina, pulling them inside. The ship doors closed just as the first shots rang out, metal clanging against the walls outside. The hunters could not stop them. The humans' preparation and bravery had kept them alive. Inside, the ship was small but safe, controls blinking softly, engines humming steadily. John took the pilot seat, Lyra beside him, Mina in her mother's arms. Their hearts still raced, but a sense of relief filled them. "We're leaving," John said, starting the engines fully, lifting the ship slowly from the ground. The city grew smaller beneath them, the hunters' shouts fading with distance. Lyra exhaled deeply, tears in her eyes. "We're free," she whispered, almost in disbelief. Mina smiled sleepily, finally feeling safe. John looked at them both, a rare soft smile crossing his face. "Yes, we are free for now," he said, "but freedom is just the beginning. We have a chance to live, to rebuild, to be safe." The ship soared over forests and rivers, the world outside vast and open. Lyra looked out the window, feeling the wind of possibility. She realized that courage, trust, and care had brought them this far, that one human's choice to protect, to fight for life, had changed everything. The pain of the past was still there, but hope burned brighter. Hours passed in quiet, the ship moving steadily toward uncharted lands. John kept watch, eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of pursuit. Lyra finally spoke, voice steady. "Thank you for saving us, for never giving up." John nodded. "You saved yourselves too. Bravery matters, especially when it seems impossible." Mina yawned, snuggling against her mother, the tension of fear slowly leaving her as the sun rose higher, the distant mountains glowing. John set the course for a safe haven he had discovered years ago, a place far from hunters, where humans and aliens could live together in peace. The ship moved swiftly, carrying them toward a new life, a new dawn. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a mix of gratitude and newfound courage. They had survived, not just by luck, but by trust, unity, and the human who had risked everything for them. Finally, the safe haven appeared on the horizon. Green valleys, clear rivers, and distant forests stretching endlessly. John smiled. "We're home," he said softly. Lyra and Mina looked at him, hope shining in their eyes. The journey had been dangerous, filled with fear and uncertainty. But now they could begin to heal, to live, to belong. Together, they had escaped the hunters, and for the first time, truly felt free. The dawn had come not just for the world outside, but for their hearts, filled with trust, courage, and the promise of a new life. John Carter, Lyra, and Mina knew that no matter the darkness behind them, the future held light, and together they could face it.